Call this meeting to order. It is Tuesday, May 30th at 10 a.m. We're in the multi-agency state office building, and this meeting of the Utah Department of Alcoholic Beverage Services is called to order. My name is Tara Tui. I'm the current chair of the commission, and we will begin with a pledge of allegiance led by Rob. Please rise.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation.
Proceeding with our agenda, our next meeting will be again in this building on June 27th, followed by our next meeting on July 25th. We also have a few upcoming store closures around holidays. Monday, June 17th will be Juneteenth. Stores and administrative offices and warehouses will be closed. Thursday, July 4th, and Pioneer Day on July 24th. If you have public comment, please submit those online to hotline@utah.gov. Or you can sign up for public comment in the back of the room. And as a reminder, comments will be addressed at the end of the meeting unless you're called up for a specific item to comment. We will now proceed with our audit report for fiscal year 2024 from Auditor John Dougal. Auditor Dougal, it's great to see you.
It's great to be here as well, rather than in other places. There you go. Took just a moment. Those that don't know, I have a new assignment from the legislature, so yes, not one we asked for. We'll just say this audit is much more pleasurable. So, it's great to be with you. We're returning and reporting based on our most recent audit. I have with me Jordan Cattleman, who is the in charge on this audit. So Jordan, come on up. We will walk through. I'll just note one, we really appreciate the great working relationship we have with you and your organization. Two, we've seen some good improvements over especially the last year. And so we'll touch on some of that as part of our audits. Of course, we also identify issues of areas for opportunity for improvement. So I'll turn some time over to Jordan and then come back up.
Perfect, thank you. If you go to the next slide, please. And probably the next slide. So our presentation is going to be broken into three different parts. The first part is going to be our findings from the report. Then we'll be talking about some informational appendices that we included, and then other items that were found in our audit that we know were the. So if you go to the next slide, please. Our first finding is that DBS's operations are not recorded in the state's accounting system in a timely manner. Go to the next slide, please. This is a follow-up from finding from last year. To give you some background, DBS implemented a system in October of 2022, System 5. That system was intended to interface directly with the state's accounting system, but due to some technical difficulties, that did not happen. Still not happening. DBS is working to address those right now. But in the meantime, to get that information into the state system, DBS will perform a manual transmission of that data. Now, it's difficult because there are some information is originated in D365 and others are originated in finance, such as payments, cash out the door. D365, on the other hand, has all of your inventory purchases, cash coming in the door. And so because of that, it's important for DBS to perform reconciliations to make sure that the data in each system matches. This also includes bank reconciliation, which is making sure that cash reported in the bank matches up with cash reported in the systems. These bank reconciliations are extra crucial because they help DBS monitor cash coming in and out the door, making sure that there are errors in the transactions reported, and also that nobody's stealing off the top. These reconciliations should be performed at the very least on a monthly basis. typically within 30 days and month-end close, to help DBS address any issues that are popping up while they happen. When we came into our audit in March, DBS had only transmitted one month's worth of data for fiscal year 2020. So that would have been July 2020. By the time we had finished our audit in April, DBS had transmitted all data into MyPen, so it was up to date. Reconciliation. Having those reconciliations and it's crucial to help DBS get a listing view of the operations going on in real time, understanding what's happening, and then not doing that also limits their ability to provide oversight and address any concern about fraud, waste, and abuse. Which is why we have our recommendations. If you go to the next slide, please. That DBS ensure all data is accurately reported in FINET in a timely manner. Next slide, please. So our second finding is that DBS is not actively monitoring the timely use of high demand licenses. Go to the next slide, please. There are certain license types that have historically had a higher demand than supply. Bar establishment licenses are probably most readily defined in that they're always we had some concerns brought to our attention that certain licensees were not losing their licenses in a timely manner after receiving them. We started the review. We found that in most instances, licensees were able to turn it around pretty quickly in a matter of weeks of receiving the license they're selling to the public. But in some outlier cases, it was almost 2 years before liquor was actually being sold to the public. DBS is not required to monitor the duration between when the licensee receives the license and when they sell, but DBS does have a statutory duty to reasonably meet public demand. So as part of that, we feel that DBS should be actively monitoring situations where for these high demand licenses that are scarce, because that will allow them to follow up on any delays and help resolve any issues to streamline that process. And it also will allow them to gather data to better inform policy decision makers to craft future legislation policies. Now, it is important to note, as I'm sure you're all aware, most recent legislative session, the number of licenses available did increase. And so some of these categories, it may be less crucial, because if supply exceeds demand, this monitoring is not important. But if that does happen in the future, where demand does again exceed supply, this will really help DBS. This gives us our recommendation to go to the next slide, please. That DBS actively monitor timely use of these licenses. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're moving into the information dependencies portion of this. This was information that we gathered during the course of our audit that we didn't have an official recommendation for, but wanted to provide to the public and management. Next slide, please. So our first appendix is a liquor store analysis comparing Utah's DBS liquor stores to that of the 16 other control states. So we took a sampling of 25 liquor stores to gather an average number of hours that the store is open per week, and then did the same thing for each state. So if you go to the next slide, please, see this graph over here on the left, you have the number of hours that average number of hours that is stored is open per week. And then on the bottom, on the x-axis, you can see the different states listed from lowest to highest. Utah is the second from the left, right after Alabama. To help provide some context, Utah's stores are typically open 7 to 11 hours a day, 6 days a week. Iowa, on the other hand, those stores are open anywhere from 12 to 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. I think 15 is about the average. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. 2 other things to mention on that one that were not included in the report, but were part of that research, was that Utah is one of 4 control states that does not sell liquor on Sundays, and that's one of 13 that either restricts holiday hours or does not sell liquor on holidays. So the second appendix that we have in there is the liquor store staffing analysis. So this was a follow-up to a procedure that we did several years back, where we took DBS payroll data and then compared it to sales volume. And we have to thank DBS for working to digitize their payroll records. It's much easier this time around to gather that data than it was in previous years, so thank you. But in our appendix, we have in graph form for each different liquor store, a comparison of the employee hours to the sales. So if you go to the next slide, please, we've provided here an example in aggregate of all the stores to kind of give you an example of what's in the report in much more granular detail. On the left side in blue, you can see the hours worked that correspond to the blue line. On the right side, you can see the orange, which is the sales volume. At the bottom, you can see the base. So you can see how each of those change throughout the relation to each other. Next slide, please. So this last section of the presentation, like I mentioned before, is information that was not included in the report, but we felt this is follow-up from previous year's findings that have been addressed or concerns that were brought to our attention that we wanted to address here, but did not result in findings. Go to the next slide, please. So the first thing we want to mention is that DABS significantly improved the timeliness of handling violations. So in previous years, we had issued findings specifically for the time it took between receiving a notification of a violation and DABS would issue a notice of agency action to violate. This was pretty high, spiked up in fiscal 23, but dropped significantly current year due to Jeremy and his team working on implementing the system and then also updating some of their processes. Next slide, please. Last year, we did an analysis of how earmark funds were, or earmarks were imposed and how they were collected. So this year, we wanted to do an assessment to see how those funds were spent versus how much was collected. And we found that generally speaking, the eligible expenditures for the earmark funds were fairly consistent with funds that were brought in and set aside. Next slide, please. We had some concerns brought to our attention about the potential using special event permits to circumvent the licensing process for high demand licenses. When we were looking through this, we didn't know the instances where it looked like somebody had circumvented the licensing process. Next slide, please. And then finally, we did a review for Utah's alcohol retail restrictions. So Utah has a fairly strict policy of only allowing beer of less than 5% ABV. We compared this to all 50 states to see their policies, and we found that 20% of states have either the same or stricter restrictions than Utah does. And so we determined that Utah's policy, although strict, was not necessarily an outlier. And that concludes our presentation.
We're open for any questions or comments.
I think I'll go now to Director Gleason to explain the department's response and then go to commissioners for questions next.
Great. Thank you, Chair Tui. Thank you so much, Auditor Dougal. And I don't see Bertha unless she's behind this big.
Bertha is in Hong Kong.
Oh, good for her. Good. Wanted to thank her. And then, of course, Jordan Cattleman. You have an incredible team. I think you've built in the years that you've been in this position, an incredible team that does really important work. We've worked hard at the DABS to really build a culture of accountability, of transparency, of improvement. And while we can do that work alone, we don't do that work as well as we can alone, right? And so having a culture of risk management and depending, quite frankly, on our internal auditor, our state auditor, and others for independent reviews on areas where we can and should improve is really, really helpful. The old cliche, you don't know what you don't know, is true. And of course, given the mission of what we do from a public safety perspective, also kind of thinking about the first finding, the incredible amount of responsibility that is on us in terms of the amount of money that we generate for the state, that the state relies on, right, to reallocate, keep our taxes low for other projects. It is important that there is integrity in that accounting, in that reporting, that there's consistency, not only for us and for taxpayers, but for people like GOPB, for LFA, to be able to take those numbers, forecast, and make really important decisions, our policymakers ultimately, right, to make really important decisions based on that financial data. So I just wanted to say thank you. And also just say that unequivocally, we agree, management agrees with both findings. And we're going to work to implement the recommendations. As Mr. Cattleman pointed out in the presentation, we were in March, had one period entered. We now, as of today, have everything almost up to period 10 completely in, and we will have that complete in a timely manner. We feel like we're definitely in a better place this time than we were last year, and the trajectory is definitely positive in terms of where we're headed. Not only because if you're looking for a silver lining, and trust me, when you're in a situation like this, you're looking for any silver lining that you can find. It has forced us in a really positive way to intimately know, to work to understand our weaknesses, our strengths, where there have been historical systemic weaknesses, either in structure or systems or process, identify those, and then work to make sure they're addressed long-term. So to that point, we are still working on manual interface. Is exceptionally tedious and slow. It is not efficient. And the team has done a really good job. Thank you, Sean, in plowing through that work. We do feel like we're at a point again where we're able to make these migrations and submit this financial data to state finance, right, in a timely manner moving forward. And so that is the goal, that is the commitment. And that is the standard that we're holding ourselves to, of course, and that we would expect you all, the state audit office, and others to hold us to as we move forward. Also to just note, out of this situation last year, and frankly, with the state audit that you did last year, it helped us incredibly work with all of our stakeholders, intergovernmental partners, to prioritize, seek out, and receive from the legislature $3 million of funding to work on long-term systemic changes to our accounting systems so that we will have a less manual, more automated process. All of those things are not only an efficiency, a value add from an efficiency perspective, also anything that is more automated, it reduces error, right? And it reduces any liability or errors that could be seen as a result of that human intervention and that manual intervention. So we are really excited and appreciative of last year's audit, actually, and the continued work this year. Again, we regret that we're not in a better place in full disclosure, but we are also very committed to doing what we need to do to make sure that our accounting is correct, is timely, and is consistent. The other thing I just wanted to say, I'd like Erica to maybe follow up on the second finding. Cade, Erica, and several people on our team have worked to identify reports and to build out reports to give you all that insight. I'd like them to speak on the status of that. But before they do that, I'd also like to move to the section where the auditor talked about the improvement in processing violations. Again, they showed data that covered 3 different audits and tracking that metric. I appreciate the work. It shows that the work that the auditor and his team are doing, we're working really hard to not only acknowledge it once a year in this meeting, but with fidelity to move it forward, right? I'm so proud, Erica, of you, Jeremy, you, Aaron, of you, our unsung hero over there, that works on these things. Make it really clear when we shorten that turnaround time in terms of violations, that is an efficiency. It also increases public safety. It can be seen as a value add to public safety. The quicker a member of our hospitality community is made aware that they have a violation and they have an issue and then can address it, the quicker that they can address it, put a plan in action to rectify it, and therefore ensure that whatever behavior or operational things got them that violation, that they're quickly corrected. Again, all of that leads to public safety, hopefully increased credibility and relationship building with our licensee community, these hospitality businesses. And so I just wanted to point out And thank you for tracking that metric. Thank you for helping us improve in that way. It's not only good for us, but it is really good from a public safety perspective for our operators and all the stakeholders that look at that and want to have a really positive public safety environment and outcomes. Erica, would you like to speak to the reports quickly?
Sure. Thank you, Director. So Kate and I, our teams have gotten our heads together. We've come up with ways to track the data as far as when a licensee begins ordering alcohol following the date of the license issuance. There's also some nuance there with conditional licenses, so we're going to be tracking that as well. So how long it takes a license to switch from conditional to actually using the license and ordering alcohol. It's pretty simple with our new online licensing and permitting system. We have some reports built in that we can already start using. The business analyst team is also working on their end to develop on their side some of the things that system doesn't already have baked in. I think I'm safe to say that we are probably up and running in the next month or so with that report and can offer that information to commissioners if they would like to see it as well. And Kate, do you have anything to add? I don't want to.
Add, just wanted to also mention that we're very grateful for state finance for Van Christensen and their involvement in helping us with reconciling. Been appreciative of them, Patricia Nelson and that team that's been helping us as well. So it's been a great partnership, and I appreciate just that involvement. And that's all due to this audit process and helping us grow and learn to be able to ask others for help. And it's been a rewarding experience. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and get started with a question. First of all, thank you for many of the things I recall discussing with you, Jordan and Bertha, in our pre-audit interview were addressed. And thank you for looking into those questions that some of the commissioners had shared with me. So we really appreciate that. One question I did have related to the hours of DABS stores compared to other control states. I saw maybe there was one or two other states below us in terms of hours, Idaho and Alabama. Is that right?
Just above us with
Above
more
us.
hours. Alabama was just below.
Curious, in those sort of like lower tier for hours states, including Utah, how many of those have wine for sale in grocery stores, if you know? So it would negate the Sunday closure hours.
Question, I know we looked at that. I don't have that off the top of my head, but we could look into that and reach out to you.
I would be curious to know, because that's a question I get a lot from the public about being closed on Sundays and also not having wine available in grocery stores, because many other control states do. So I was just curious, personally, what that looks like. Okay, I'll go to questions from other commissioners. Commissioner Tenner, I know how to follow up.
Thank you, Chair. I have two questions, and they're kind of, we can decide if they're for the auditor or for our team. And I guess I'll just set this up as thank you for all of the work that you do. I think, I've managed teams, and there's kind of two personalities around this, those that never want to see any findings, and then those that take findings as very helpful and an opportunity to improve. And so I just appreciate all the work that the state auditor does, of course, to, make sure that there's not fraud, waste, and abuse. And so, of course, happy to have your eyes on this particular agency with all the money that runs through it. But then on top of it, these findings, again, help us, and what you're looking at help us to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible with taxpayer money and taxpayer trust, really. And your point about public safety is a big one. And so thank you for the team on violations, but it's the work of the state auditor that we need to actually get there. So thank you for using the power of your office to do that type of work. It's so critical for our state. All the way to get to one, I guess, question or request for the DABS team. And again, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Erica, it's so awesome that you basically have this data system in place that you can do the type of reporting that you're talking about. And I would just request that if you're doing the reporting, it would be very helpful to see, we get that quota sheet that you make for us that tells us how many licenses there are and how many are available. It would be really helpful just to have on that sheet the number of licenses, especially for those scarce licenses where demand exceeds supply, bars, how many licenses are currently not in service as you track them, right? So are either in that conditional phase or have an extended closure. And that will be helpful to have that data to inform policy. And then the other question is the one where I'm,
Sure. Could I give
yes,
one suggestion?
yes,
You may want to do some type of bar, a line where it says, because if it's just a few weeks, that's probably,
Sure.
we would
Yeah.
consider that time.
yes,
But if it exceeds some threshold,
yes.
then report on that.
Great. Yeah, thank
Because
you.
that's where we notice some outliers or
Yes,
upwards
thank
of
you.
almost 2 years.
And perhaps given the work that the auditor's already done on this, and I've worked in other places where it's been nice to have the additional staff doing this data analysis. You all might have that kind of threshold in your analysis that you can inform that. Thank you. I appreciate that. The other question, I guess I'll go to you all, but I also need to hear from the staff. Maybe it was a little disheartened to see the finite and reconciliation issues here, but also have seen just the progress that's been made, and you've noted this, and now we're not in the day-to-day. So just to have your report on that just helps to inform our thinking around it. But I just want to get a little bit more insight and clarity about the actual timing now that it feels like we're starting to get caught up. You mentioned that we need to have that finite recording and the reconciliation timely. And Jordan, I think I heard you say 30 days. Is that, so can you talk to me about maybe some specificities around like a month closes when we would want to have all of that finalized with the reconciliation? And maybe can you give an example of, I'm so far out of this, I should know this, but it's been years since I've been in the middle of it. Like, what period are we in right now? Where should we be? When should this period be reconciled?
So we're finishing up with the period 11 right now, so May. So ideally, what would happen is once May is finished, you have your month end close, a couple of weeks. You would want by the end of June, the next month, to have that reconciliation done. And that would allow you, if you find any issues, to address them early on, especially with bank reconciliation type things. That kind of news doesn't age well. So being able to address it quickly would help.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So then I guess I will go to the department again, just to kind of understand where we are. Are we still behind in this? Or so we would be, let's see, today's May 30th. So it'd be period 10, I guess. Are we reconciled on period 10? I think, Jordan, I think you alluded to this, but I just want to get from the department, where are we on period 10? Will we have that reconciled by the end of the month, which is tomorrow? Is that tomorrow?
Yeah, Commissioner Tenner, I think that's a great question for our finance director, Sean Williford. Sean, would you mind answering that question?
Yes, of course. Thanks for the question. We have interfaced into Finite for period 10. We have the reconciliation now between the two systems that we're working on. It will be done by the close of period 11. And the bank recs as well. So those will both, for the first time in a year and a half time this month.
Okay, that's great. So that's just then, so come to validate back to the auditor. So if we hit this, will we be back, that we will be back on track? Is that, I'm not sure if I'm asking that question correctly. For period 10, if we're reconciled by the end of this month, May, that fits into your finding a recommendation.
Let me clarify, make sure I understand.
Yeah.
Mr. Williford's answer. So you're saying as of the end of May, you'll be reconciled everything July through April. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And then assuming that it continues going forward like that, then you'll be back in sync.
Okay, that's awesome. Again, not great to see it, but the work of the auditor and then the team to get up to where we need to be. It sounds like we won't see this again in the future. Thank you. Thank you. Director, did you?
I just, we will not be in this situation again. And so I just want to make that really clear. And I am very much looking forward to us being able to do this in a timely manner, as should be expected and as our responsibility to do.
To ask a high level question, in your experience with state agencies, how does DABS compare to other state agencies in terms of what we're discussing here with your audit finding?
If you've seen one state agency, you've seen one state agency.
Okay, that's a great,
I think it's fair to say state agencies are all over the map, and depending what type of situations they're encountering, sometimes they're operating better and sometimes they've fallen off the rails in some aspects. And so clearly we understand the complexities of a new accounting system, ERP system being interfaced with finance. We understand the challenges there. You're not the only agency that's run into issues there. We've had other agencies that have been struggling with deployment of complex systems. The challenge is how do you deal with those complexities and getting them back on track while continuing the rest of the operation that's going on? Because there's not just one activity taking place. There's, as you know, in your organization, there's a lot of activities taking place. While you may have problems over here, these other activities are still operating well. And Jordan pointed out one thing. When we looked at hours of operation relative to sales, if you remember a few years back, we had to digitize hand-filled in time cards, which was a very labor-intensive process. And so you guys have made progress that now your time cards are electronic. So when we came through to do that review, it was much more straightforward for us to do that analysis. And
so are our applications and payment systems.
so that's one of the key things. While you've got some serious problems in one area, there's other activities that you're making progress and you're doing well.
Okay, I think we'd be looking for a motion to approve. Vice Chair Handy.
Thank you very, very much, Madam Chair. I move that we accept the audit report as presented.
Second. Thank you, Commissioner Ward. All those in favor of accepting the audit report, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you. This will be my last time I anticipate appearing before you as my term wraps up January 5th, but I've appreciated this working relationship. So thank you so much.
Enjoyed working with you. Thank you. Thank you, Jordan and Bertha. Okay, moving on with our agenda, we are now going to Doug for our parents and child report. Hi, Doug.
Hi. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. As we come to a close of our fiscal year, Parents Empowered is busy completing our community partnership projects, or CPPs for short. We still have San Juan County, Washington County, Wendover, and Lehigh to complete. And we're also gathering data and beginning to strategize creative concepts for our new fiscal year campaign. Today, as you can see on the screen here, I've got a few slides I wanted to share about a recent Parents Empowered CPP in Vernal, Utah, launched early in May. Catherine Gerardo, Prevention Coordinator with the Northeast Counseling Center, covering Daggett, Uinta, and Duchesne counties, applied for, organized, and launched the project with the help from Dr. Pettit, a local pediatrician, along with many community partners. Next slide, please. The large mural reveal, and by the way, this building is Dr. Pettit's Pediatric Center in Vernal City, was the centerpiece of this launch. It had a dinosaur and Lego theme. And of course, they're in dinosaur country. It was a fun day for them. That's the doctor on the left there, pretty excited about the reveal. And the Lego was a fun little addition. It helped with the artwork. It's just a great family bonding activity. They like the foundations of building Legos and communicating as a family. So this building is in a high traffic area in Vernal. Apparently it's right there on the highway. You can't miss it. And then everyone in the community knows where the pediatric center is. This is a little better view of the mural. It says, "Build them a healthy future for a healthy brain." and bright future. Keep your kids from underage drinking. And yeah, so it was a fun day. Also, Dr. Pettit, he gave the healthy living and alcohol prevention presentation. The Vernal Cinema offered free showings of the Lego movie. There was quite a turnout. The mayor, police chief, fire, police. There's a juvenile justice services out in the area. They participated. There was about 250 attending this event. And to me, it was a great example of how one person, Catherine Gerardo, along with this caring pediatrician, really pulled the community together, had some great partnerships. And it just goes to show what you can do in a community to get your message out in a very positive way and bring those families together. So, oh yeah, also in the upper left corner, the Vernal News Express covered the event. Also, there was a radio station that broadcasted live. So it was truly just a big gathering. They had games, prizes. They had a Lego building contest, kind of like to show, the Lego masters and whatnot. But just a great way to pull everyone together and talk about underage drinking prevention in a very positive way. So, that's about it. Any questions? That concludes my report.
Great. I hope we can use that collateral elsewhere. I love the building blocks. Hey, Sean, financial update.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to present the April 2024 DABS financials. April's retail revenue this year was 40.6 million, which is 1.1 million lower than last year, April. Since both of those months had 4-week fiscal months, 24 days of sales exactly each, they're directly comparable. And while this year was 2.59% lower than last year, year to date, we're actually just within dollars of last year on a daily sales comparison. So we have year-to-date revenue, 484 million. Last year was 486 million, but last year had year-to-date one more day of sales. But taking that in stride, we really are within dollars of last year. It's almost exactly flat. This next block of figures are all year-to-date. For the first 10 months of fiscal year 2024, after cost of goods sold of 233 million. Operating and non-operating expenses of 74.4 million, which leaves us with net operating income of 63 million. From that, we have program transfers of about 58 million. And then we also expect to return 106 million to the general fund at the end of this fiscal year in the form of liquor profit transfer. Do you have any questions?
Director Clayson, our operations update.
Yes, I'd like to turn the operations update time over to Kate Meyer.
Thank you, Director. We did want to bring one item today in our operations update that we're very excited about, which is the opening of our new store in downtown Salt Lake. So the old store on 4th South will close this Saturday night at 10 p.m. And then we will reopen the new store on Edison Street and 3rd at 11 a.m. on Monday morning. So we're very excited about this opportunity and feel like the store is just bright. There's lots of good flows. We've listened to a lot of information on what customers would like to see, and we've been able to implement those as we've been building new buildings here lately and some of the things that we've been able to accomplish. So we're very excited about this opportunity. I think the store, one of the biggest questions we get asked is, what is the color of the brick? Believe it or not, it's black ice. So in case you're wondering, but we're very excited about it. We think it blends in well with the surrounding area, but also enhances and improves the overall work of that particular area. So we're very grateful for Layton Construction, who's been helping us with this project. We'd also like to thank DFCM and their partnership. They've done a great job of helping us navigate how to build a store, what to do at construction site. Also thankful for Jacoby Architects. They've been the ones helping us design this building, and this has been a bit of a process as we've tried to find land downtown over the last couple of years. So very grateful to see this finally come to fruition. Also, just want to thank all of our supply chain that has worked hard to get ready for this. Just so you know, it takes about 8 or 9 truckloads of product to stock store. And so that has to be picked in addition to from our warehouse team to be able to be then brought to the store. Then additional teams go in and merchandise all of this product and put it all on the shelf. And I just love it because they turn all the labels the correct way, right? It's all beautified, and we're really excited about with the colors of the bottles, how the store came out and how that characteristic comes out. So if you get a chance, I encourage you to come down Monday at 11 a.m. Val Barnes has worked very hard as our director over stores to coordinate her teams that go down there, do a lot of that merchandising in conjunction with our merchandising team and Andrew Hoffling and his team, as well as just want to mention our new store manager, Patrick. He's doing a great job. Really looking forward to his leadership there as they elevate the customer service that store will demand. And we're excited to have great tourism opportunities there. And wanted to mention our Proudly Utah section that is all of the items that are made here in Utah. And that's a highlighted section in the store. And so anyway, just wanted to let you all know that happens this coming Monday. And we're really looking forward to that store operating fully finally. So with that, I'll conclude my my report unless there's any questions about
The parking behind the store, is that still how
Yeah,
it's working?
yeah. So on Edison Street, it is a one-way street, and I believe it travels north to south. And so you'll just come down from the north side, and there are 27 surface parking areas for inside of what we own and what we have ready for us. In addition to plenty of street parking, that kind of stuff that's open to the public.
Exciting. Any questions for Kate? A few of us toured the store before, and I mean, it is, it's gonna be remarkably, I won't say different, but my home store of Foothill Boulevard is not pretty right now. I'll just say that. So I'm very excited to be able to shop here and have an enjoyable customer experience.
If you still want to go to Foothill, that's great. We want you to go there. But maybe check back with us in February, and the new store will be up and ready for you
But
then
who's
too.
counting? I don't know. I drive past it every day. Okay, thank you, Kate. I
Sure.
appreciate that. Okay, let's move on to violations to our consent calendar. Sam, understand that you will be reporting on that today, and let us know if there were any that we needed to pull off for specific consideration. Thank you. Could you pull your microphone down for me for the people online? Thank you.
Chair. There's 15 items on today's consent calendar. Recommendation was to take them all as a block. They are all complete, settlement agreements in place and ready for commission action. Has questions on it.
Sam, and Commissioner Tenor, I'll go to you to see if there was any additional items of discussion from the compliance subcommittee.
No additional items to note. I'm ready to make a motion. Okay, so this is the consent calendar. All of us have had the materials in our board or in our commission materials, the settlement agreements, and we also appreciate the opportunity to have a Q&A with staff on these. The compliance subcommittee reviewed this consent calendar, and the consensus recommendation is my motion that we approve the consent calendar and the settlements as written. And I will note one point of clarification. My colleague, Commissioner Jacobson, will recuse from, I think, a couple of these. And so maybe I'll let you go ahead and speak to that to finish out the motion.
Yes, I would just supplement your motion. Would we approve the consent calendar with, I have to recuse on number 11 and 12.
Thank you. So that's, yeah, that is my motion.
Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. And then Sam for the orders to show cause.
Thank you, Chair. There's 3 items on the order to show cause. If we can take those individually, I think that would be appropriate. The first is Chetnod House. We have had no response from them. The restaurant appears to be vacant. The property is for lease currently. So according to order to show cause, they are not meeting the minimal qualifications to hold license. Commissioners have 3 options: a suspension, a revocation, or a forfeiture. Department's recommendation is a forfeiture. Forfeiture would allow this licensee to apply with it, not wait that 36 months. If it was a revocation, it would have to wait 6 months before applying for the license.
The subcommittee's recommendation.
The recommendation here, and I'll make it in a motion, is that we approve the, or that we deem the license for Chetnod House forfeited.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you, Chair. If we can go to Crum Brothers, again, very similar. They do not currently meet the minimal qualifications for a licensee. The property is vacant. There have been email requests that have not been responded to. Certified mail has been returned as not delivered. And you have the 3 options, and the recommendation from the department is a forfeiture.
Madam Chair, I move that we deem the license for Crum Brothers in Logan forfeited.
Second. Thank you, Commissioner Orton. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and then Center Street, Urban Market.
The last one, and this is the same owner as Crum Brothers. So the circumstances are the same. The property is vacant. There's been no response, failure to meet minimal qualifications, to hold a license, not having public liability or dram shop insurance. And the recommendation again is a forfeiture. The department.
Chair, I move that we deem the license for Center Street Urban Market in Logan forfeited.
Second. Thank you, Chair Handy. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Erica, Aaron, for all your work there. I will now be turning, we have an agenda item related to our violations policy. So we've talked in these commission meetings several times about examining our current policies or rules in some cases related to changes from the alcohol bill this year that was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor. So in accordance with that, we have taken a look at our violations policy from the commission related to pending applications with a violation history. So under the current policy, the commission would not consider a new license applications by an applicant with a pending violation or a new license application by an applicant with a serious or grave violation submitted within 3 months of adjudication of the violation. These restrictions applied to all licenses or applicants with a common ownership of 20% or more. The policy has been followed strictly since we implemented it, and due to the bill that passed, this now requires the commission to issue a retail license if the applicant satisfies the statutory requirements and the license type is not at a quota issue. The statute does not prohibit an applicant with a violation history from receiving a license if all of the other statutory requirements are met. So while we had solicited feedback related to this policy to determine whether any policy changes were necessary, the recent statutory changes have required the commission to move away from that policy and disregard that work we had done. So even though this applies only to retail licenses, the statutory changes and the policy would apply to all license types. We're going to treat all of the licenses consistently from the commission's perspective. So based on that, I will go ahead and put forward a motion that we no longer follow the previous policy based on the statutory changes that have been made and the need for consistency among all license types. So I'd be looking for a motion to move away from that policy. Or excuse me, a second to my motion. Thank you, Vice Chair Handy. Any discussion before we move? I did have one comment. I think that it's important to understand. I think that the policy that we've had to not consider applications from licenses, especially with serious or grave violations, was certainly a deterrent for incurring those violations and promoting public safety. I don't feel like it was the intention of the legislature to move away from that policy or necessarily award licenses to licensees who have had serious or grave violations. So certainly I feel like this is an unintended consequence of the legislation that was passed, but we want to be sure to follow the letter of the law and make sure we're being fair to our licensees. So that's just my comment I wanted to have on the record. Yeah.
Chair, maybe just a clarifying question before we vote. Does this preclude us from taking violation history or pending violations into account when considering a license in like a scarcity situation? So I know this is, that the new statute has us awarding licenses conditionally, as long as those criteria are met. But what about in the case where we have one license and 10 applications? Can we take violation history or violation in that case? Maybe I'll look to start.
Yeah, my understanding is no, but I would like our compliance director's take on that.
No prohibition, and you're even able to consider violation history and talk about it on the record, even if you are at quota. That's contemplated in the statute, and something that's very relevant. That clarification.
Yes, I appreciate the discussion and feel like we're kind of, we do need to follow the letter of the law, Madam Chair, as you've said here. But I think it's an unintended consequence, and I'd like to, offer myself or, the rest of us to work with staff and the legislature to see if we can find a little bit better clarification, because it doesn't sit right with me, and it doesn't kind of make sense. I'm just going to say that, but I'm willing to have an open mind and to listen and to learn about the nuances of this going forward. So just my comments. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of sunsetting the old violation policy, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, thank you. And thank you to staff for all the work preparing and researching that, and to all those who had submitted comments on the previous violation policy. We sincerely appreciate that. So we're going to be moving on to licensee recognitions of those licensees who have passed the hub inspection. Director Clayson.
Thank you, Chair Tui. We have 122 licensees for the month of March that passed their inspections. And so, of course, just this has been a great thing to point out month to month. The information's in your packet. It's also reflected here on the screen. Just the diversity of license types that were visited. And then, of course, just geographically, I mean, you can see we've got it's covering Heber to Tooele. We've got Ogden, South Jordan, Ephraim, Sandy, Mount Pleasant. So we are really appreciative for these licensees, these hospitality businesses that are working day in and day out to have robust operations that lead to public safety, that encourage public safety, right? Strengthen that trust in that regard, and then obviously enable them and help them to pass their inspections. So thank you.
Thank you. That is great to see that many licensees. It's much appreciated. Moving on to our consent agenda. Erica, would you like to go ahead and summarize that and pull off any items? Commission?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. Just before I start, I want to give a reminder for bar renewals. That period of renewal for bar licenses ends tomorrow. And for those that may be awarded a bar license today, you will need to renew before tomorrow. So just to keep that in mind. With that, I'll just summarize the consent agenda. We've got the minutes from our April meeting for you to approve. We've got several different types of licenses, off-premise beer retailers. I will note one item there that's just came to light this morning. We will be striking number 32 in new applicants, which is Hamdard Brothers. We'll likely see them next month. We also have on the types of licenses, liquor warehouse, manufacturing, type 1 and type 5 package agency, a hotel, 2 hotels, and then a limited service restaurant, several of those, several beer only restaurants, a beer rec, and several banquets, and then 1 reception center. One note on the reception center, there's only 1 license left that is a reception center. Probably for the foreseeable future. So this will be, if you approve the consent agenda, the last one awarded for some time. You'll note that we have the bars and full service restaurants taken separately at the later in the agenda based on historical license scarcity. I also want to note that you've all had the chance to review these. You have materials that you've been able to review and ask staff questions. Happy to answer any more today. Both with that, I think you can move towards the motion.
Vice Chair Handy to see if there was any items for discussion in their subcommittee meeting regarding the consent agenda.
I don't believe so, Madam Chair. Thank you.
I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll go ahead then. I have the mic. I move to approve the consent agenda as stated. Erica pulled out number 32. And that would include the approval of the April 25th, 2024 commission meeting minutes, correct? All right. That's my motion.
Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Orton. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And now for the main event. Okay, license application consideration items, bar establishments. And Rob, come up to the microphone here. And while you're doing that, I do want to let everybody know we have 2 bar licenses available today. There was some confusion previous to the last meeting about the population numbers that we were using. One set of population data had us with a full license, another had us at 0.95 of a license or something. So erring on the side of being conservative and making sure we had a full license, we decided to wait until this month where all of our population estimates met the whole license number. And so we were comfortable with awarding the license that we had in addition to the new one that we got because of population this month. Or excuse me, that someone surrendered. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry about that. So we will have 2 bar licenses to award today. So Rob, I will go to you and ask if you could give us a quick rundown of the applications, knowing that we have all read everything they have submitted and been well aware of the application details. Go ahead,
You want to start with the change of ownership?
please. Yes.
So we have the change of ownership to Cabin in Park City. this application is complete and meets statutory requirements.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Orton. All those in favor of the license change of ownership, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Rob?
So a rundown on the current applicants for a bar license. We have Root Cats Rock and Roll Grill. This is the one in St. George. They have been on the agenda since March. If they get the license, they'll surrender their full service restaurant license. They are ready to go. It's conditional just based on business license switch with St. George City. We have the River Horse on Main. They're in Park City. They are ready to go. We have the Sun Trap in Salt Lake City. They are ready to go. We have the Manor in Colville. This one has been on the agenda since March also. This one is conditional just based on a business license switch. They are ready to go. We have Melancholy in Salt Lake. Their projected opening is July 1st. We have Atma Prema in Conduit Heights. Their projected opening is September 16th. The Break Sports Grill in Saratoga Springs. They're opening July 1st. And then Sunday School in Salt Lake City, their projected opening was just changed to July 1st.
Rob, one question before we move to discussion. Why is the Manor not in the ready to operate applicant, or is it ready to operate or not?
It is ready to operate. It wasn't moved there because their final inspection just occurred.
When was that?
The final inspection was on Thursday last week. And they are also still conditional based on business license switch, so they are ready to go.
And I'm gonna go to Commissioner Tenner next. But I did want to say, with the additional licenses that the commission has received because of the alcohol bill that was passed this year, we felt like it was fair, and this is maybe my prerogative as chair, that we will have those licenses in our possession July 1st. And so we will be having a special commission meeting on or around that day to award the bar licenses for other applicants. And also, as you are aware, because of the change in the law, that means that if you are a bar who has applied and met statutory requirements, and staff is making the recommended approval to the commission, that you will be granted a license on that day at that meeting. So for those applicants that do not receive a license today, but that you have applied, I think that is something that you could go ahead and plan on. Erica, is there anything you wanted to add there?
Just to make sure we're extra clear, in order to be timely with your application for a July 1st or in and around that date meeting, your application will need to be in by June 10th.
Thank you. And just a really quick clarifying question, and then I can give a little bit of insight on the conversations that have been happening in subcommittee. But on that application date that you've just noted, Erica, those that we're looking at on our list right now don't need to do anything else. They've already applied. Is that right?
Correct. They have a complete application.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So as the chair noted, we have 2 licenses available today, one due to population, which that little bit rounded up, little bit rounded up from last month and is here this month. And then there's that additional license that came in through surrender. And that additional license makes 2, which makes this conversation a little bit easier, but it does not make this conversation easy. We have 4 bars that are ready to operate now. They could be in operation as soon as they're granted, serving the community and generating revenue, sales tax. But we can only award 2 today. Conversation in the compliance subcommittee, and of course my colleagues can weigh in on this, was that those bars that are ready to open do kind of rise to the top. We look at all of the factors that are given to us in statute, and those bars that are ready to open, are are at a place where we would likely feel comfortable awarding. However, in this place of scarcity, we do need to rank. I'm going to try a motion given what feels like it was consensus in our committee, though I didn't validate it explicitly on one of these applicants. And then we can try that if that's okay, Chair. And then from there, I do hope that we can have a bit more discussion and potentially ask some questions of the other operators. And so I'll go ahead and make this motion and see if this kind of hits that consensus. And that would be that we go ahead and award a license to the Sun Trap LLC in Salt Lake City. That's my motion.
Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Morton. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
I rule that passes and one of the bar licenses is awarded to the Sun Trap in Salt Lake City. And then, Commissioner Turner, I'll go back to you.
So I think, and I'll kind of follow your lead here, and I'm sure my colleagues have some, comments and questions. This one's tough. So, we've got 2 ready to operate applicants that are currently operating as restaurants. They are employing folks, they have business, they are serving alcohol in their capacities as restaurants, but they're not executing completely on their preferred business plan and how they want to optimize their businesses. But that's Blue Cats and River Horse. But they, if we're weighing this, potentially there's some path where we're holding out on those July licenses while they're still in operation. The analysis, at least for the bar factors that are in statute, might support awarding a license to Manor, just related to, capital investment, employment, their location is rural and in an economic development area. But my understanding is they potentially could also be operating under that beer rec license that we've previously approved in the consent calendar. And so I think this is one where we just need to maybe hear quickly from a couple of these and ask a few questions. And I'd be prepared to make a motion if that's appropriate, but maybe Chair, I'd follow your lead on what a process looks like for gaining more information here.
Yeah, I think that there was enough discussion and not enough consensus with commissioners that I think it would make sense to hear from the 3 additional applicants, Blue Cats, River Horse, and Manor. So if we could have the applicants come up to the microphone, and Rob, you can go ahead and sit down. Thank you so much. So we'll start with Blue Cats. If you could just take 2 minutes I think
yes. Hello,
gentlemen. Nice
good
to see
morning.
you.
Morning.
So just if you could just take 2 minutes and update the commission. I think what we're most interested to hear at this point is what sets you apart maybe from the other applicants and why the state would be best served by you being awarded the bar license. Go ahead. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to speak to what's been brought
Please,
up.
I'm sorry, please state your names for the record. Thank you.
We're here with Borden Smeltzer and Jerry Love. And I'd like to take this time to speak to that previous violation that's been brought up the last 2 times that we were in the meeting. The establishment has worked diligently to ensure that there's been no more violations, and key measures have been taken, specifically 5 things. Staff training. 5 weeks ago, the entire staff participated in an in-person training session with our compliance officer. And, that reinforced all the importance of adhering to the alcohol laws and regulations. In addition to that, we had the staff revisit and thoroughly read through the responsible alcohol service plan, ensuring everyone's well-versed in those policies and procedures that are going to keep us from getting any violations. While we remain a restaurant, we've added for event nights signage and additional communication for the patrons. So we've installed a prominent banner above the stage, and additional signage is displayed during shows throughout. As well, we're all reminding them to remain seated with their beverages. Additionally, the door person now hands out flyers explaining the laws as guests enter. We've also increased our security. We've hired an extra person to walk around and monitor compliance, further ensuring a safe and controlled environment. And also to maintain in our compliance within our current license restrictions, we have limited the size and types of events. While our guests and community are eager for more events, we've prioritized manageable operations until a bar license can be granted. So we're committed to maintaining a responsible and safe environment. We appreciate your consideration in granting us a bar license, which will allow us to better serve our community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Blue Cats from commissioners? Oh, Commissioner Jacobson, go ahead.
Really quickly, I just, I don't know, I don't even know how to phrase this as a question, but I just want to make the point that from my kind of perspective and analysis on this, I mean, that violation is something that we, should be taken into consideration, but gentlemen, I'm not sure what you would have done. It sounds to me, thank you for clarifying what you're trying, but at the end of the day, I don't know what you would have done to make sure that, the patron didn't do something that they would have been allowed to do in a bar. And so just, I'm more or less making the comment that I'm thinking about that as I'm going through this. And I appreciate you clarifying that you're trying to communicate that to your patrons, but if you were a bar, you wouldn't have had that violation to begin with.
Correct.
I don't know if I'm looking at you where the camera is. I know you're up on a side wall for us, but I hope you can see my face, and so you're not having to look at the back of me. But how many people can you seat at your establishment if you're going to be a bar?
Currently 110.
And what hours of the week will you be open?
Tuesday through Saturday, 4 p.m. till 10 p.m. on weekdays, except for Friday and Saturday would go until midnight typically.
At the present time, as you're operating as a restaurant, right?
Yes, sir.
What do you think will be the difference in terms of, first of all, have you done any projections as to what will be the difference in terms of your revenue if you are awarded a bar license?
Well, we will be continuing the food operations, but what it's going to enable us to do is be open in the evenings for additional events. So it will increase revenue across the board. We have a lot of people who approach us to have fundraisers and memorials. There's several, we're on the I-15 corridor, so we do get regional bands that are coming down from Salt Lake and going down to Vegas that we could be picking up on the middle of a weekday to give a higher level of entertainment that we currently is well underserved in the St. George area. We feel that there's a high demand for that, which would allow us to have higher ticket and gate prices and increase our sales revenue that way as well.
What do you think the dollar, what have you done any projections on the dollar amount that you think that you will increase in terms of your revenue?
I'm not actually prepared to speak to that at this time. I don't know if Mr. Schmelzer would like to chime in on that. I do know that the current revenue that they have is greatly diminished with keeping these events much smaller, keeping it to small local acts. They're never seating 110 people. They're usually keeping it, with acts that are bringing in about 70 to 80 people on the high side, with people ordering mostly appetizers in order to get a drink. They usually don't order additional food or additional drinks. So even though I can't speak to the projection, I would estimate that it should go up exponentially. I mean, 5 times or more what they're currently doing, just due to the fact that they can service far more people and not have to force people like at 8, 9 o'clock at night while they're watching some of these events to order additional food. As if a lady wants a glass of wine and she doesn't want to order food to eat at 8 o'clock at night, we hear that a lot. And some people do just get up and walk out because of it. So I wish I could speak to those projections, and I apologize on that level, but maybe we can get something together for you for July if we're not granted that today.
I think July is a foregone conclusion, but I guess my last question is, what What, other than the revenue that you'd have this month, is there some special reason why we should give it to you this month as opposed to waiting till July 1st?
Well, with it running at its diminished capacity, Mr. Borden has blown through a large portion of his savings. So he has been keeping it alive on a diminished capacity, hoping to get the bar license. So I've really watched him take his life savings and pour it into this place. So the sooner we can be up and running and get those events going, the sooner we can start to replenish this man's bank account and help him in his retirement. He's not getting any younger, but he has a passion for this and he's ready to get going.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I had a question. Thank you, gentlemen. You've been extremely good-natured and patient about this. I'm sure you're very frustrated. We are frustrated too, as you know, we've been talking about Blue Cat since March time. And I think that Commissioner Jacobson got to the questions that I was going to ask, and that is that, you know, what kind of let me see if I can phrase it in just maybe a little different way. What kind of a hardship could you articulate has this presented to the establishment by not having a full bar license? What kind of a hardship have you encountered? I think you've answered that, but just maybe go at it a different way, maybe.
Well, I mean, I'll speak as a consultant looking from the outside in as to what I've witnessed. We've had a harder time keeping help. People want to come in where they feel like they're going to be tipped more. So to get those high quality bartenders that are out there that are working at the other bar establishments that are here in town, they're making additional tips. So we've had to run it on a skeleton crew, which has made us diminish these events. So the hardships just come back to the fact that we can't operate at full capacity. We can't offer and compete with other establishments in town. And the rent in St. George, I don't know if you're aware, I'm sure it's like that in Salt Lake as well. We're just not as used to it down here, but everything has gotten quite expensive to operate. The food costs are up. The repair costs are up. The cost of employees are up. The rent here is quite expensive. Advertising's gone up. So with him running it how he has, it's really to a point where he'd probably be better off selling it to somebody who wants to run it as a restaurant if he doesn't get a bar license, because it's not a profitable enterprise to be in a live music event operation and serve alcohol without the proper licensing. And unfortunately, that's where his heart lies, and that's where he's focused his energy. So, the fault has to lie with us on that. I understand that, but it has created some hardship, and I don't think he thought it would take this long to get the license when he started down that path, or maybe he wouldn't have done it at all. But here we are, and we're ready to operate, and we hope we can move forward.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next applicant, River Horse on Main. Let's make sure you introduce yourself, your name for the record.
Hi, good afternoon. Good morning, I guess. My name's Seth Adams with River Horse. River Horse has been, a staple on Main Street in Park City for, many years, 37 years. We took a leap and built a bar called Palomino, which we call it now operating as a restaurant currently on Main Street. Beautiful, we spent a lot of money to do it. We've got a great following. We serve great food there. We will continue to do food at Palomino, but with the elevated cocktail program. We've, had a great experience so far with it as is, but we realize also that having a bar license will greatly, be able to achieve what we want with some additional live music, and people will be able to mingle amongst themselves and not be seated at the bar or at a table. So we're excited to, potentially get this license today, and hopefully, continue to grow and be another 30 years on Main Street and continue to offer, a great spectacular dining experience and hospitality experience to people on Main Street and both locals and tourists. So, that's us.
From commissioners. Go ahead, Commissioner Jacobson.
You don't mind if I call you Seth, do you?
Not at all.
Okay. And I don't want to sound prejudiced, so I have to disclose the fact that obviously I've eaten at River Horse many times since we talked about in Park City last month. Yeah, but what is going to be, why is it significant enough for you to get the license this month as opposed to waiting till July 1st? Could you explain to the commission about that?
I mean, obviously financial would be a big part of it. We have a limited staff, limited budget, and, us being able to operate with, less cooks in the kitchen, if you will, greatly increase our profit margins. And then being able to do, entertainment, other private events, people standing up and, mingling for a birthday party. That's a big part of that. And, Park City this time of year is a very terrible place to be. So it's our off season. It's a, good time for us to be able to ramp up for our busy year and busy summer season. Giving us the license now would help us achieve that in a greater timely fashion and be able to execute it better.
Given the Memorial Day weekend, which just passed, has it been your experience that there is a substantial amount of tourism in June, or is it usually wait till July?
Oh, June's pretty big, actually, as you get into Father's Day and the June 15th once school's out. Park City kind of greatly increases the traffic and, people going on. And then we will be hosting Save at the Summit, which is a big event. That's in, mid-June. I think it's the 20th. That's a big event for Park City and, tourists alike. So
have you made any calculations as to the amount of revenue that you will achieve if you have a bar license as opposed to continuing with the restaurant?
Yeah, I submitted it with my packet that you guys had, and we're projecting about $3 million this first year, and then with the bar license increasing that because we can stay open later and then have some live music. I potentially see it increasing to 4 to 5 million.
Finally, how many seats do you have in Palomino?
There's 20 at the bar, bellied up at the bar, and about 25 to 30 seated, and then kind of a private area in the back. So, 50 to 60, if we pack it in. If it was standing room only, it could be about 80. So if the fire marshal lets me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Manor.
Good morning, Commission.
State your name for the record. Thank you.
So sorry. Do you need me to repeat any? Okay. I apologize. So, just right off the bat, the beer rec, and honestly, the beer rec, we did not even extend it into the Manor facility because that would not accomplish the service that we have intended for that facility. And, Wahali Meats currently we don't have a license for that facility, and a bar license, an equity bar license, is the type of license that this facility was designed for. It's not set up as restaurant seating. It has a driving range up on the second floor, patio, and the downstairs has a bar lounge area. It is intended for a bar equity license, and it was designed as such. So really, there is no other license type that is a satisfactory substitute for the bar license we are seeking. Also, the equity bar license is a valid and appropriate license for this facility. Our clients have invested an incredible amount, not only in the infrastructure and the property. It's also so right on the property where the beer rec licenses is a PGA style golf course. And so this is the absolutely appropriate accompanying amenity for the property. Additionally, with the bar equity license, as the community grows, which there is intent and purpose for it to grow, and multiple other dispensing locations on the property for that equity license. And an equity license allows us to move to expand that license without asking for any more licenses to at least 5 other locations on the property. So it's kind of a big bang for your buck in the sense that you get to give us 1 license and we can use it for multiple locations without having to come back and ask for additional ones. Currently, there are 50 resort memberships, which result in about 1,300 members, because each membership you can have up to 25 members per membership. And so we have 1,300 members that have use and access to the property at this time, and that is continually expanding and growing. In addition to the members themselves, members may invite guests to enjoy the Wahali amenities with them. So, adding to your twosome or foursome, those members are going to have a number of guests with them, and we've provided you projections on that. Additionally, Sotheby's is our realtor, and they will be hosting groups of invited buyers and realtors to tour the property continuously. And so our goal is to not only be able to give our members and their guests a quality, amazing, full service experience at the property, but also to the prospective buyers that will be invited onto property to see what we're offering. Additionally, Wahali has already 3 golf tournaments slated for later in the summer. So, and as you know, golf season is prime season for golf course amenities. And so we are right in the thick of the heart of our season that is coming up right now. And so we have 2 tournaments. One, the Veterans Golf Association has scheduled a sponsored tournament on property for their Western qualifier on August 23rd. There will be at least 180 golfers, not including additional guests for that tournament. We also have the Sotheby's tournament is scheduled for August 26th, and that's at least 120 golfers, not including additional guests. And then Wahali is hosting a tournament for their members and guests on September 2nd. So we anticipate some very, big traffic to property. The one thing that sets Wahali apart from other licensees is that we are a captured market. There is nowhere else to dine or drink when you come to Wahali. Like, this is it. And so anybody who steps foot on our property and is on our property to enjoy the property is going to eat and drink at the manor. And so, we're not fighting for traffic with other amenities, other bar establishments. This is it for our guests on property. And so, we have in the building itself around a capacity for 80, and we expect that we will have significant traffic projections as we've given you, and those will continue to grow with time. So I apologize if I went over. I do want to open it to questions, of course.
Yes, if I may. Do you have any golf tournaments scheduled in June?
We do not have any tournaments in June at this time.
And do you have any other events scheduled in June?
We have not scheduled events in June, but we are scheduling our opening in June. So, and we have our members and guests are calling to reserve and plan their golf outings. And so we're hoping to accommodate them.
So
As-
you're gonna probably get a license in July. What do you lose by waiting till July 1st to get a license?
We lose the ability to actually provide any services to our members and guests because we have no other service at the manor at this time.
Thank you.
So,
Aaron, if I might, my understanding is that with the beer rec license, if you were not awarded a bar license today, you would extend the premise for the beer rec license to the premise of the facility that you're talking about.
we would consider it. It really is truly not ideal. I mean, there's no wine, there's no spirits. It's just basically beer and approved seltzers. It's a really limited option for a sit-down facility. We would possibly consider that, but the likelihood is yeah, we would make decisions on that and apply for the extension if we decided to do that. However, we just don't feel like that would be a excellent guest experience. So we're really hesitant, like, is a little bit better than nothing, and how do we convey that to guests? And so I feel like there's some strategy, like some just discussion and presentation that, it makes it a very difficult guest proposition with such a limited offering. And so we're not it's an option, and we know it's an option, and we would absolutely consider that option, but we have not made a definite decision. Sorry, that was a long way to get to that.
Any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
On time, but this would be helpful for me. As part of our board materials, or our commission materials, we have, all of your data, what you've submitted, what what your estimated revenues are, what your employment is, size. I mean, just, what's on your application. And then our team comes back and talks to you. I'm looking at, and I'm just kind of thinking about, weighing all these together. And again, every single license here, I think that is a word, or application here is a worthy application. We look at staffing status. So kind of like where your staff are. Is your staff fully hired, partially hired? What's the training status? Now, as I'm looking, we kind of like have a couple of different rankings, and one is full staff hired and trained. One is full staff hired, training's not complete, or partial staff hired, but partial staff hired, but trained. Or the lowest is partial staff is hired and training is not complete. And you are I think the only applicant that we're looking at that's in that lower category. So I'm just checking in, like, is that accurate as of now? Or do you have training? What's your training status?
I'd like to introduce Birgit Omar. She is our resort manager.
Commissioners, Birgit Ballmer, General Manager, Resort Manager. The staff that we have hired right now, senior F&B manager to food and beverage supervisors, is all trained. All of the client, all have included myself in all the training. Obviously, like everybody else, we are in a really difficult position of hiring, not just because of like. So for us, not having a license, for example, in particular, means it's hard for us to hire, and in particular, retain all of this stuff. So we are competing with Park City. We have Beyond Park City, which is a beauty for our members. But for retaining staff, given we're 25 minutes out of Park City, it is a very significant investment from our property side, from our ownership, to really pay significantly higher wages for the staff that we need. So everybody that is currently on staff is trained, completely certified. We have hired really particular people that have experience in each house. Because everybody's familiar with the law. So it's from Florida, from Alabama, they're not used to our laws. So that was really the focus, in particular on the senior staff. So there is really significant training. We have hired learning development to really make sure ongoing training is being given to staff. It's a part of our culture. so we can really be.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Commissioner Jacobson for a motion.
I'm going to first make the motion, then I'll be more than happy to discussion. I make the motion that we give the remaining license to Blue Cats.
Second,
Second that motion.
thank you. And now for discussion.
If I may, I know some of my other commissioners probably got their, done their homework on this also. But one of the things that I had a look at it, we're really only talking about 30 days before we'll give everybody else a license. So why does Blue Cats need it this month? First of all, Blue Cats has been waiting. We've penalized them already for violation history. And they have been in quote unquote second place for several months with us. They also were the only ones who would articulate real loss that they will suffer this month as opposed to waiting until next month. And that articulating the loss, I think, is a major distinguishing feature between all of them. With due respect to River Horse and Manor, is they have not been able to give us a fact that they will be pumping money into their establishment and losing that money. Yeah. So to that extent, I think that's a very distinguishing feature. Also, they are from St. George, and you know that there's a scarcity of available bars in St. George. So given just those items alone, I believe justifies the importance of Cats. And with the obvious caveat that Manor and River Horse will be at the top of our list on July 1st.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson. I'm going to support your motion. I think you've well articulated it, and we've been thinking about Blue Cats for several months, and we're really put into an untenable position. And a little bit of an apology to River Horse and to Manor that we are in this position. You're terrific operations. I want to support you in all ways. And we will be able to in the future, but going to support you in with my own pocketbook in an opportunity. But I think that Blue Cats is to me the way that we should go here on this date today. Thank you.
In favor of awarding the second bar license to Blue Cats. Oh, I'm sorry. I seconded. Yeah, Tanner seconded. Thank you. Keeping us on track. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And again, we will be having that special commission meeting probably the morning of July 1st. So thank you. Moving on to full service restaurant licenses, I'll go to Vice Chair Handy for a report from the subcommittee discussion, and we can move forward with the motion if you're ready.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We're in a different situation here where we have 26 full service license opportunities. We have on our agenda today, do we take, here's a question maybe on the alumni club holdings at Rice Eccles. Is that included? Will that be included in this motion here? Do we have to take that separately? Eric?
Let's take these individually.
Thank
So
you.
license
Thank you
change of
very much.
ownerships.
Thank you. All right.
And
Let's do that. So let me just start with some motions, but we had a great discussion, Commissioner Orton and myself and in our subcommittee in operations, and went through these, and we feel comfortable with these applications. Also, so I will make a motion that the license change of ownership for OBG Alumni Club Holdings LLC Salt Lake City, that be granted.
would you like to include Nori Sushi Bar as well?
There's two, and I include the other one as well, and it's pointed out. Yeah, it's the Nora Sushi Bar. Thank you. On the second, I had to flip the page. Nori Sushi Bar. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Orton. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Moving forward with the ready to operate and all other applicants. Any further discussion there, or is the recommendation to approve?
Recommendation is to approve the ready to operate applicants, Cowboy Ranch House, Still Steaks, La Frontera, and all other applicants, the pub, Marisco's, Tacos El Robert, the Cheesecake Factory in Orem, Two Bit Bistro in Ogden, and the Hando Saki in Salt Lake City.
Is that in the form of a motion?
That is the form of motion, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Orton. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our type 3 package agency application from Eden. And Jeff, if you'd come up to the microphone, please.
15 minutes. The Eden Package Agency, the existing one, Wolf Mountain, closed in April by their own board decision for their business model. And so we opened up the opportunity for others to apply for the agency in that location. We've had one applicant, and that is Valley Market. And individuals Tom Ferguson is here to present if you have any questions.
Are there any questions for the applicant from the commission? Okay, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the application. Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Orton. All those in favor of approving the type 3 package agency application for Valley Market Eden, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Jeff. Do we have any comments from the commission? Any commissioners want to say anything at that meeting? Commissioner Jacobson,
Just
go
real
ahead.
quick, I hope we can schedule this meeting for the morning of July 1st. I have conflicts on, believe it or not, second and third out-of-state court appearances.
Hey, any public comment? If you've signed up, go ahead and introduce yourself and come up to the microphone. And while you're stepping up, Vicky, were there any comments online? Okay, thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. I wanted to respond to Commissioner Tui's question about wine sales in Alabama. They are allowed in grocery stores, and as of 2003, they even allow wine in grocery stores on Sundays. So that's all.
For that.
Thank you very much.
Yes, fun fact. Any other public comments for folks who have signed in? Okay, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Second, non-debatable. Okay, bye.